This video covers the exercises for Section 801 Plan and Profile Sheets for Ohio DOT's Open Roads Designer Training. So to get started, I'm going to open one of my design files, and then I'll use the ODOT application to create new files to create my design file for my sheets. So the initial file I open really doesn't matter. I'm just going to choose one of the files. I'll open the BK004, which is the file that contains my proposed geometry for State Route 185. Once the design file is opened, I'm going to use the Ohio DOT workflow, and I'll pick the Ohio DOT Create Design Files application. I'm going to expand the category just a bit, and from the drop-down list, I'm going to pick the roadway category and then click off of it to apply that. And I'm going to change this filter for the type to sheets. So I'm going to create plan and profile sheet, design file for that. And this is going to contain my State Route 185 plan and profile. Now, I'm going to choose my scale, 1 to 20 for my annotation scale, and I want to make sure that I change the seed file to the design seed. So since I'm using Open Roads to clip these sheets, I don't want to use the sheet seed. I want to use the design seed, attach my references to that, and then let Open Roads create the other models that it needs for the drawing model and the sheet model. Since I'm only creating one file, I'm going to turn on the setting to open the last created file and go ahead and pick Create Files. So after the file is created, the software is going to open the file that it just created. It's going to ask me to check in the current file, so I'll go ahead and check that back into ProjectWise. And now it opens the GP001 design file. So I'll go ahead and close Create Design Files application. And I'm going to change my workflow to Open Roads Modeling. And from the Home tab, I'm going to attach references. So from the Attach Tools, I'll pick the References icon. So what I need to do is attach everything that I want to show up on my plan and profile sheets. I'm going to start with my survey information and pick my field book. Again, I'm using coincident world since everything's on the same coordinate system, and 0 for my nesting depth. Once the file is attached, I will go ahead and double tap my mouse wheel to fit the view. Use the element selection tool to select the terrain model and set that as the active terrain. And again, what that does is creates a 3D model in the file and attaches that 3D model as a self-reference. And I'm in the habit of turning that off. I typically don't want to see the 3D model reference to the 2D view. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to attach the other files that I want to show on my plan and profile sheets. So from the roadway base maps folder, I'm going to use my BK000 collector file that has all my geometry referenced. And again, I'm using coincident world since everything's on the same coordinate system. And with this one, I'll have a nest depth of 1. Okay, so I have my proposed alignments showing up now from the BK000 file. Now, anything else that you would need to attach, now's the time to do that. For example, you might have right-of-way defined. So if I go under 400 Engineering right-of-way, look in base maps there, I see I do have a base map for right-of-way, so I'll go ahead and attach that. Again, coincident world and no nesting for this. So that has my existing right-of-way. I think I might have a utility design file as well, so I'm going to go ahead and attach that file. So under 400 Engineering and under Utilities, Base Maps, I do have a base map with some utilities drawn in there. And again, coincident world, no nesting. Okay, so that's all the references I have that I need to attach. So I'll go ahead and just do a fit view. And now I'm going to turn on or off some levels. Oh, I did forget one reference. I also want my corridor information because I want to use those graphics for my edges of pavement and shoulders and whatnot. I have modeled the St. Peter Road. At this stage, I did not do any modeling of Jamison Road. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Attach Tools. I'm going to bring in the corridor models. So under Roadway Base Maps, I'm going to bring in the KM1 and KM2. And Also bring in KM3. Again, I have not done anything in that at this stage of the videos, but I'm going to go ahead and attach that. So I'm using Coincident World and no nesting for all three of these files. So now I'm ready to go ahead and turn on or off the levels that I want to see in my plan sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and use level display. And in the field book, I know I don't want to see the triangles. They're not on, but I'm going to turn that level off. I don't want to see the center of pavement. That's the surveyed crown of pavement. I don't need the scratch level. I don't need break lines, shot markers, random points. There may be other things that you'll want to turn off. It's up to you to go through those and decide what you need to show on your sheets. Come down now to my modeling file, and there are some different things. Let's sort by what's in use here on that file. The conceptual graphics, so that's there's the boundary here for the template range. There's a few other things. That's the corridor. I'm still in a conceptual mode on my design mode, so that's why that's shown up on conceptual. Key station lines, range, so I don't need any of those. Same thing in my KM002, I don't need any of those graphics. So you have the intersection match line. Let's turn that off. Okay, so I would continue to go through and review those and turn off any other levels I don't want. I see I don't have my center line of St. Peter Road, so let's double check that one. So that's in my BK00. If I expand that out, BK002 had St. Peter Road, so let's turn on that alignment and its stations as well. Okay, so I think I've got everything in order now, so I'll do a fit, and I'm going to go ahead and save my file, save my settings. So the plan and profile sheet clipping process is going to involve laying out name boundaries for the plan view and also name boundaries for the profile view. So I'm going to hold down the right button from the view control group. I'm going to pick two views, plan and profile. It asks me to create a dynamic profile. I'm going to say yes. And for the plan element, I'm going to zoom in, pick my proposed center line of State Route 185, and then click in that view window that it opened. Now, sometimes I've seen this not come up and not show the levels, so I just need to go to the level display dialog. And again, I'll sort by what's used, picking the profile here, and make sure I turn on the grade line and the ground line. So I'm going to lay out name boundaries in the plan view first, and then name boundaries in the profile view second. Now, the content of the profile window is driven by what is drawn in the profile window in the BK file. So anything else that needs to show up in the profile, I would really do that in the BK file. So any underground utilities, the existing culverts, proposed culverts, drainage things, you're going to want to display those in the profile. So that's actually not covered in this video. This is just going to go through the training exercise. There will be supplemental videos for plan and profile sheets, and one of those will talk about the profile model itself and drawing these additional things in the profile. So at this stage, I'm ready to go ahead and lay out my name boundaries. So again, I'm in the Open Roads Modeling workflow. Under Drawing Production, I'm going to use the Name Boundary tool. The dialog has several modes for placing boundaries in different contexts, and we're going to place boundaries in the plan view and in the profile view in this video. So starting with the plan view, I need to pick my drawing seed. So we have some generic options available for just a plan portion, dual plan, plan and profile with a sub-summary table. So I'm going to use the plan and profile option, and I'm laying out the plan portion. And then I need to pick the scale for my sheets. So this is going to be a 20 scale sheet. And the next thing I need to do is come down to the start location and click in that field. And then I'm going to go over and pick my alignment that's going to be used to define the station range. So I'm going to enter a start station and ending station. I can do that graphically and on screen, or key in values, or just use the little buttons here to lock it to the beginning and lock it to the end. So I'm going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to take my sheets up to around station 428 or so. So I'm starting at even number, I'm going to end up with 500 feet on each sheet. So let's take it up to 430. Now you do see that there's a little bit of a rounding error here based on the scale and the definition of the plan portion. So I'm going to just even that out to 500 feet. So the plan view is configured to place the boundaries 100 feet left and right of my alignment. And I'm not going to have any overlaps. And then there's a number of boundary chords. And this is going to be used if it's the boundary is going around a curve, it's going to chord that boundary off. So we have it set to 10 as a default. So I'm going to go ahead and issue a data point in the plan view, and that's accepting the starting station. It's going to show me the boundaries and how they're going to be drawn. I'm going to go ahead and accept these locations. So the second data point is going to accept the ending station, and then a third data point will actually place the boundaries. Now before I do that, I do want to mention the create drawing option here. I do not want to create drawings until after I have the profile boundaries defined, so I'll leave that turned off. So a third data point in the plan view, the boundaries are drawn in the file, and now the dialog closes. So I'm going to reopen the dialog, and I'm going to switch it to the profile mode. And I'm using the same drawing seed for a plan and profile, no summary table, but this time this is laying out the profile boundaries. My scale will be 1 to 20 for my sheets. And my method is either the station limits or from the plan group. So I want this to match my plan group stations, so I'll change that method to from plan group. And there's the name of the plan group, which was based on my alignment. The rest of the parameters here, I really don't need to change these. My vertical exaggeration and a 20 scale is going to be 4 to 1. My available profile height just defines the total profile area that's available. And there is some top and clearance options that you could turn on and change those if you wanted to. I'm going to have elevations every 5 feet, stations every 100 feet. And now I do want to turn on create drawing, and I want show dialog to be turned on. So with the profile mode, I'm going to issue a data point in the profile window to select the window, and then another data point shows those boundaries, and then a third data point places those. Since I have the create drawing and show dialog options turned on, it's going to bring up the second create drawing dialog. Now, most of the parameters here are set, and there's only a few things that you're going to want to review and double check. So what you want to do is look under the plan area, the drawing model, make sure the scale is defined at 1 to 20. It will not always default to what you have set, so you may need to change that. Under sheet model, the annotation option here is going to be left at 1 to 1, and our detail scale is going to be set to our scale, which is in 1 to 20. You need to do the same thing on the profile side. This first option for the drawing model will be set to your sheets, whether it's 1 to 20, 1 to 50, whatever. The second one will be 1 to 1, and the third one should also be set to 1 to 20 or 50 or whatever you're using for your sheets. So I'll just go ahead and OK that. So what the software does is for each name boundary, it creates a drawing model. And then for each drawing model for plan, each drawing model for profile, those are assembled and referenced to a sheet model to build the sheets. So when the process is complete, the software will display the last sheet. So let's take a look at the models that were created through this process. So there's two different ways I can look at this. One is in the view groups dialog, and if I look at the view groups, I can see that there are several models and several view groups created here. So the little icon indicates a drawing model, and this is a sheet model. So I have a drawing model for the plan view here and a sheet model for a plan sheet, and there's also drawing models for profiles. So let's take a look at each of those, starting with the plan 1 drawing model. Now these are just MicroStation models, so if I go to the Home tab and pick the Models dialog, I can see the list of all the models here as well. So this is the plan model for my first sheet, and the annotation that's placed in here is just the north arrow. So in this release of the software, it does not support placing annotation for the match lines, but I'm told that is coming in a future release. So the intent from Bentley's perspective is that annotations will be placed in the drawing model itself, not on the sheet. The sheet is intended to be used for plotting purposes and for the sheet border itself and editing the properties of the sheet border. So let's take a look at the profile model. So if I scroll down in my view group list here to profile 1, this is the first profile, and in this model the grid lines are annotated here, and then on the side I have the annotation for the elevations there. So again, the intent is that any annotation would be done here, and then those annotations will be reflected on the sheet model. So we're going to go ahead and open the sheet model for the first plan sheet. So these are just references to the drawing models. Now the sheet itself is in sheet size, not in real world dimension size. So if I were working on the sheet and needed to measure something, or if I wanted to place any annotation while I'm looking at the sheet, I could do that by activating the reference. So the way that works is if I use my element selection tool, I'll zoom in a bit. So the way this works is I'll use the element selection tool, and I'm going to right click on an element that's in my reference. And one of the options is to activate that. So there's a hierarchy here. So this is looking back at the drawing model, which is referenced to the design model in the GP1 file, which is back to the corridor model where it's actually drawn. So I can activate any of these models. I'm going to activate the design model itself. So once that's activated, any measuring that I do or any text placement or annotation is going to be annotated in that active model. So let's take a look at that. So if I go to the drawing tools and use the measure distance tool, measuring from station 387 to station 388 is going to measure as 100 feet. If I go ahead and place some text, and I'll use just a slanted normal text style. So I'm going to place some text. This is a text in the design model. I'll just put that in the file somewhere. Okay, so when I'm done, if I just hold down the right mouse button, I can deactivate plan 1. And just to verify the difference here, if I measure the distance between 387 and 388 now, you can see that I have 5 feet. So to 20 scale, that would be appropriate distance. So let's take a look at this text that's been placed in the design model. So if I go back to my view groups and open that Plan View 1 model, I can see that text is placed in there. So that is how Bentley intends for the software to work, and that's the way we're recommending that we proceed with things for now. Another thing to note is the north arrow placement. The software does allow annotation of a north arrow, but that annotation is relative to the alignment. So it's a distance along and an offset from. So in this particular release and probably moving forward, that's just going to be something that's going to be a change that's going to be located there. Now we still have the area in our sheet for the north arrow. So if you wanted to, you could right click on that, activate that, and I can use a move command, and let's just move that. Let's get a center snap and move that over here. Then when I'm done, if I hold down the right button, I can deactivate that. So that's something that you could do to move that into its proper location on a sheet. So we can see now that it's over here. So that's the exercise for creating the plan and profile sheets for State Route 185.